Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of the MCAG Governing Board to order. The time is 3:03. Before we begin, I'd like to let everyone know that we do have a Spanish translator present for those who may need language assistance. Can we have the translator come up just to say, please, and make the announcement?
Hola, buenas tardes. Me llamo Juan, represento United Way, el programa de lenguaje. Si alguien necesita interpretación, aquí estamos disponibles para ayudarles con eso. Gracias.
Thank you, Juan. Now, may we please have roll call? And I know that Supervisor Yanez, or I'm sorry, Director Yanez is doing it virtually, correct? Okay.
Oh, he just came up. Yes, go ahead.
Director Espinoza.
Present.
Director Hogue.
Here.
Director Serrato. Director McDaniel. Director McDaniel. Director Samra.
Here.
Director Nagy.
Here.
Director Nelson.
Here.
Director Pereira.
Here.
Director Silvera. Director Yanez.
Here.
Chair Pedroza.
Here, next we will have an
Have a
invocation. I'm going to ask Director Pereira to lead us, please.
If you'd like to join me, please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, I ask you to come into this meeting room and to provide guidance and wisdom to all those that will be making presentations and decisions. Lord, we are trying to do the people's work in Merced County, and it's not always an easy task. And so I ask that you bless us in our decisions and you give us wisdom. I also would like to ask for comfort and guidance and wisdom and safety to be provided for all those that serve our county and our country around the world. Lord, times are changing and not for the better. So we need you probably more than ever. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is the approval of the agenda. Do any of the directors or the executive director have any comments on the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved by Nelson, second by Pereira. We have to do a voice vote because Vice Chair Yanez is virtual. So go ahead and call for the roll.
Director Espinoza. Director Hogue.
Yes.
Director Serrato.
Yes.
Director Samra.
Yes.
Director Nagy.
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Yes.
Director Pereira.
Aye.
Director Yanez.
Yes.
Chair Pedroza.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next item is public comment. Public comment is now open for anyone to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have anyone in the room today who would like to comment? Have we received any public comments by phone or email, or do we have anyone who wishes to provide comment to the board?
There are no questions, no comments.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 4 is reports and presentations, and we have 2. 4A is the Citizens Advisory Committee report from Michelle.
You all again. Staff presented the MCAG and TJPA action, information, and discussion items to the CAC. There was no quorum present. However, members concurred with the action items presented. Items that generated discussion included transportation and Measure V monthly update. The Inter-Regional Transportation Improvement Program is out for public review and will be considered for adoption by the California Transportation Commission in March 2024. The Technical Advisory Committee held its first meeting on October 11th of 23 to review the draft collision analysis, and the project team met with jurisdictions one-on-one in December to review jurisdiction-specific information. The second Technical Advisory Committee meeting is scheduled for January 24th at 10 a.m. For the monthly update for Transit Joint Powers Authority, the TJPA staff received approval to secure 12 cutaway vehicles. The bus participated in the Merced Christmas Parade on December 2nd, showcasing a new battery electric bus. And in October, TJPA staff met with the contractor, Stantec Consulting Services, to go over the fleet phasing plan and electrical concept plan at the existing operations and maintenance facility assessment. Stantec is now working on final cost estimates. And that is our report for this month. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you
Are
very
there
much.
any questions from the, well, you're not done just yet. Are there any questions for Michelle? Anybody from the public? Okay. You are free to go.
Thank you, Josh.
Next, we have the Caltrans report, and we have somebody from Caltrans, Mr. Samuelson.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Someone's glad to see me. An update on backfilling Dennis Agar. So we have an interim actor for the interim. Eric Mathers is our acting deputy district director. He does come from District 10. He was previously the deputy district director over our administration. He's filling it in until a more long-term acting position will be announced, and we do expect that to be announced by February, mid-February. It looks like it's going to take a little bit longer for that, but we do have Eric Mathers on board for now. Also, as far as some other items that I just want to bring to your attention is the Caltrans System Investment Strategy. So Caltrans is holding some three workshops, January 30th, 31st, and February 1st, to go over updates to the California System Investment Strategies. This document is used to help align and prioritize projects and make them in line with Caltrans priorities and also with CAPTI. Along with those workshops over our system investment strategy, is Caltrans is also sending out for review and comments their local project initiation document evaluation. So this document is to help the local agencies and guide them to and partner with Caltrans in conjunction with our investment strategy to help make sure that the projects are aligned as much as possible and are competitive as much as possible in alignment with CAPTI. So those comments, we're receiving those comments come in February as well. We definitely encourage you to listen in on the workshops for the CSIS and provide any comments you may have on our project initiation documents moving forward. Also, I just want to bring to the attention one funding program. So the Federal Highway Administration has released a call for applications for their bridge investment program. Applications are due March 19th. There's an available of $80 million in this bridge investment. What the call is for is one, for any planning activities you may be interested, and second, they're looking for project grants for any bridge projects under $100 million is what the call for applications are. And with that, that concludes my report out. I'm happy to receive any comments or questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the board? Yes.
Yes, thank you. How does Eric, what's the spelling on his last name? Is it Mathers?
Yes, it's, yeah, I have, no S, Mather.
Mather, okay.
And if it would help, I can provide his contact information to the group after this meeting. And
Yeah, I'm just trying to get ahead of Supervisor Silvera. And no, at one of our last Hillmar Safety Task Force meetings, we talked about starting one in Gustine. There was a pedestrian death on Highway 33 and 140. And I believe Duper Tong was supposed to reach out to me. But so I just wanted to, I'm going to email Duper. I just wanted to put Eric, a CC on the email.
okay,
So that he knows, right? And then, should I put you as well?
please include me.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. And you have Eric's email?
Well, I'm sure it's Eric Mather at
Yep, that's-
DOT, yeah.
Simple as that, right?
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I just wanted to thank the Caltrans staff for coming to Planada last week at my municipal advisory committee and giving a presentation on the roundabout plan and the construction's date. I know it's slated for around April of next year. It's been a long time coming. I know since we've been pushing for a stop sign and signalization since 2017, but the state kind of imposed the roundabout for safety, I guess, in the community. But we're glad, even though our president of the MAG gave you guys an earful about them when wishing a signalization, but I guess the state stepped in, and for safety reasons, they're putting more roundabouts in the communities across California. So, but I want to thank you for your for their attention and their presentation. They were very nice, and so I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll definitely move that along.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody from the public? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 5 is information items. These items are included for informational purposes and will not be presented by staff unless board members have any questions. Are there any questions for staff? Any questions from the public? Okay. We'll go on to item number 6 is the consent calendar, which has 5 items. These items may be acted on with one vote unless specifically removed for separate consideration by a member of the board, a member of staff, or a member of the public. Do any of the directors have questions for staff? Okay. Are there any comments from the public? Is there a motion to take action on these items? Is that moved by Gurpal? Second by Nagy. Okay, we have to do a voice vote, so please do the roll.
Director Espinoza.
Aye.
Director Hoag.
Aye.
Director Serrato.
Yes.
Director Samra. Director Nagy.
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Yes.
Director Pereira.
Yes.
Director Yanes.
Yes.
Chair Pedroso.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. We'll move on to number 7. These are action items which will be presented by staff, and public comment will be available during the consideration of each item. 7A is a request to approve the fiscal year 2024-25 overall work program priorities. Elizabeth.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So it's time to start talking about preparing our budget and overall work program for next year. We're starting on that internally. And this is an item that we've been bringing to the board annually for a couple of primary reasons. One is to help us, be guided in development of the overall work program and everything that MCAG is going to be kind of doing next year. And also, we kind of use it as a guide to kind of some of the topics that are a priority for the board moving forward, and where we might participate in plan studies and things of that nature. So we bring this every January. On page 103, there's a list of 14 kind of planning principles and ideas that we're proposing. They're similar to last year, a little bit streamlined. I think there was one or two more last year. But some of the priorities that we feel like are for the board that would be reflected in our work program. A couple of funding related items is that we want to promote leveraging, essentially, where we can get state and federal funding to match our own when we can. We want to support implementation of our measure projects. Continue the development of passenger rail and interregional bus service. Those have really been growing in our area as we start talking about ACE eventually coming and interregional transit service, so that's a large part of our work program for the planning agency. We want to support our goods movement corridors, and we specifically call out Highway 99 and a few other highways in this list. We want to support projects and programs that are consistent with the Sustainable Community Strategy that this board adopts every 4 years. So the last one was adopted in 2022, so we want to stay true to our regional transportation plan and our Sustainable Community Strategy. Support zero-emission vehicles and infrastructure, invest in active transportation, safety. I'm kind of summarizing because I know you're all experts in all of these, but freights and goods movement in truck electrification and inland ports. Those are growing in kind of a focus point for us in the planning department. Support and invest in a variety of public transportation programs and services. That's things like van pooling, et cetera. We have some housing planning through the REAP programs that you all hear about. We want to note that we're supporting and considering equity within the transportation planning process in all of across our work elements, as we call them. And also, we have a heavy emphasis, and it continues to grow, on the technical requirements of the MPO, the performance measures that we have to set and monitor, and the modeling and things that we do. So it's an important part of the overall program. So I'm happy to take any questions or discussion. And the request is, to continue to develop our budget based on these principles from the board. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? No? Okay. Are there any comments from the public? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Pereira, second by Samra. Please call for the roll.
Director Espinoza? Yes. Director Hogue?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Yes.
Director McDaniel? Director Samra?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Yes.
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Yanes?
Yes.
Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Item 7B is a request to approve a resolution authorizing the Transportation Development Act apportionments for fiscal year 23-24. Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The TDA, or the Transportation Development Act, governs how 3 funding sources are administered here in the region that are essentially designed primarily to meet our transit needs. And those are the Local Transportation Fund, which you'll hear us talk about LTF, State Transit Assistance, STA, and the State of Good Repair, which is SGR. So MCAG, as the regional transportation planning agency, is responsible for administering these funds as they are prescribed by law, and also through this board approving of an apportionment schedule to the eligible recipients. So for fiscal year 23-24, for LTF, we are talking asking about $12 million. For STA, it's just shy about 3.6, just shy of 3.7 million, and for State of Good Repair, 482,000. So this item's asking for board authorization or adoption of the resolution that includes a proposed apportionment schedule for each of these. I'll kind of go from maybe the most significant to the lesser amounts as we go. So I'll start out with LTF. So as we know with LTF, these funds are by law intended to meet the transit needs in our region. This is all three of these funding sources are primary funding sources for our transit agency, TJPA. And because of LTF under the TDA law, we go through our annual unmet transit needs process that basically this board defines, and with TDA law, what is the definition of an unmet transit need, and is it reasonable to meet? Once that annual process concludes and there's a finding of whether or not there are unmet transit needs, then we can go through this apportionment, and it goes to first in the TDA law provides an order of priority that these funds are applied to. And long story short, once you go through the county auditors, county auditor who administers it, then MCAG for our TDA program administration. We also have MCAG planning dollars that are used here, then bike and pedestrian allocation, which is what the board had directed us to do previously, and then the transit uses, which per board action previously we set aside 5% for a rail reserve, and then we have our TJPA operations and capital and our yards allocation. All of that after we factor those things in, and the fact that we had one unmet transit need for this cycle, and it was additional, I think, early morning service into Planada, which we were able to meet by turning our headway into Planada into service hours. So we were able to get people into Planada earlier, thereby meeting that unmet transit need, means that the unobligated balance after all of those numbers, and if you want to see them, because I'm kind of running through them quickly on page 106, if there's funds left over at that point, they can be used for local streets and roads. So we have not always had funding, LTF funds available for local streets and roads, but through this year's apportionment, we are proposing an estimated, where am I looking at? $2,092,209 of unobligated funds that could be eligible for distribution to jurisdictions for local streets and roads. That's I think a little more intensive, and that is the only one of the three that does include the opportunity for local streets and roads funding. State transit assistance is the second fund, and I mentioned that's just shy of 3.7 million. This is generated by sales tax on fuel and on diesel. So the total estimated funds for our region is just shy of 3.4. These funds are allocated or are available to be apportioned to transit providers in our region, which are YARTS and TJPA. So you can see on page 107 how those funds are proposed to be apportioned between YARTS and TJPA, with the lion's share there at TJPA and 81,000 to YARTS. It is important, I think, to note that there's these two different programs under STA and SGR. One that is allocated based on population, and then so half of it gets allocated by population, half of it gets allocated to the operator based on revenues that they generated from the previous fiscal year. So you can see how those break down for both STA and then also subsequently for SGR, again, just between TJPA and YARTS, because those are the two transit providers in our region. So this step in the process as the planning agency is to get the board's approval of the apportionment schedule, or the apportionments for these programs, and then that would allow us to submit, to distribute the claim forms out to the jurisdictions for the LTF and to the transit providers to submit claims for these funds for eligible purposes. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Are there any comments from, oh, sorry.
Excuse me. This is kind of jumping the gun to a later deal in the agenda. But if we have 2 million of unencumbered funds in the Transportation Development Act through the LTF, why aren't we using that money instead of borrowing Measure V money for the buses?
NAV's going to come. It's not enough. It could be, but NAV's going to be the party pooper. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know the answer.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. That 5.5 is basically borrowing the funds. We're going to replenish the money back once we get reimbursed from the federal government, FTA. Whereas this is direct allocation to the jurisdictions for the funds, right? YARTS doesn't need the funds; it just needs it for cash flow purposes. So, in this instance, $2 million. First of all, it's not going to be enough. Second is that $5.5 million is just sitting in an account, whereas this one could be utilized on the streets and roads of Bristol County.
But just to follow up on that, before we distribute these funds, and this is maybe a question for Elizabeth on TDA audits and all of that stuff. Could we, if we, this is essentially roughly half of what YARTS needs for cash flow purposes, could we use these funds while we have access to them now for the YARTS loan or for the YARTS cash flow purposes, and then as we need more up to the 5.5 or whatever it is, use the measure funds for that. So I mean, is that your question? It's like use these first, and then when the funds come back in, then distribute it to the jurisdictions. Could we?
Cleaner the other way.
It is cleaner the other way.
It is. Whereas that fund's already sitting there. Here, you have to accumulate through the rest of the year. So it's going to take the whole year to get that $2 million.
Okay.
Is that answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, now before you walk away, do you by chance know the numbers that we've allocated say the last 3 times
To
the jurisdictions?
for LTF? I don't have it on top of my head. I can give me about 5 minutes to jump on my computer and get that number.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just make a comment. In 2017, when I first got here, there wasn't many dollars, and so I just want to tell staff I appreciate you working. There we go. We worked really hard 10 years ago, I guess, for the N-Transit needs, and we were literally creating a bus route for one person, right? And to me, that doesn't make sense, and so I think we took the unmet transit needs definition a little too far, and so I just appreciate the staff kind of changing course. I know it's new staff and pretty much, but anyways, I just appreciate that money coming back, because being used on the roads, one, helps the bus, and it also helps our citizens, so I just want to acknowledge that, I guess. Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, I've got to leave the meeting.
Do you want the follow-up for the numbers? Do you want to have Nav just email?
I just wanted to make that comment.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
It wasn't $2 million.
No, it was not. $2 million. It was
Yeah.
probably like a $200,000 for the whole region, maybe for the streets and roads. Yeah.
Chair Pedroso,
Yes.
Director Yanes has a question.
Oh. Go ahead.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Stacy, I just had a question on the explanation for the unobligated part of the auditor's estimate. And maybe you explained it and I missed it, but what was the formula that was used for that as far as like Dos Palace getting 2% and the county getting 32% and things like that?
Population?
Yes. It's a percentage of population in Merced County, and that's how the funds are divvied up.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Wasn't it divided up with a base amount first and then population?
That is the Measure V local funding distribution has a base. We haven't historically.
LTF last year.
Oh, that 1 year,
We did for 1 year.
I know you were talking about, we had that tiers, right? We had the 15, 10, 15%, but that was for that 1 year. If you guys, this is for this board's direction, we can take that same approach. We'll have to come back with the numbers on that. But, you know, this is historically, we've been divvying up LTF, except for that 1 year, by population percentage in Merced County. And on Measure V, it's based on road miles and population, and then it's an average of that.
And technically, you know, when we went through the exercise of the base amount, there was, I think, there was an expectation there was going to be, that was a one-time thing, there was going to be less funding moving forward. And there was also a discussion about beginning to pool these funds as a region. And to be able to use them in a different way. As we've gotten new staff and we've learned more about TDA allocation purposes, that's not advised. It's advised to have a formula that represents, that there's a formula that represents, does it have to be based on population, Elizabeth? We're trying to get more aligned with the letter of the law, and we're learning more about that as we go through this process. So the idea that was floated a couple years ago about pooling the resources and having like a grant program is not consistent with what TDA law requires.
And that one-time anomaly was the CRISA swap.
I knew there was something special about that money. It's a CRISA swap. Yeah.
So
it was, instead of everyone having to deal with the requirements of CRISA
and the
CTC, one jurisdiction took the owner. I think it was the county.
Yeah, no, transit.
Transit.
Yeah, TJPA took it to purchase those buses.
That's right.
We swapped it with TJPA.
County did there was a different. Yeah, I remember that too. And so then that's why there was a different formula in how we applied the LTF. Man, that was. I was clawing for that memory back there, and it wasn't triggering. Thank you for remembering that.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board? And are there any comments from the public? Anybody on Zoom? Okay. Is there a motion? Motion by Nagy, second by Samra. Please call for the roll.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Hogue?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Samra?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Yanes?
Yes.
Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Item 7C is a request to adopt the final 2023 Measure V implementation plan. Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would have put this on consent because this is the last action of a long process that you all have been deeply engaged in, but I wanted to use it as an opportunity to say that there were a few minor edits to the document from the draft to the final, and it's in two, and they're really inconsequential largely. For the Henry Miller Rehabilitation Project on page 128 of the packet, page 12 of the plan, we have worked with Nathan Bray to kind of clean up the language. There was some confusion of maybe use of phase 1A, 1B, phase 1, phase 2. This is a cleaner version, but I think if we do an amendment at any point, we may want to continue to refine those project limits. But again, it doesn't change the structure, like the actual project. It's just the terminology was a little confusing. And then the second was an omission on my part. I believe it was the West Side projects. If you notice under each project description, the next line under the project title, it'll say what phases are being funded. I had failed to include that line for the West Side projects in the draft. So because that was something new I added to this one, was to show like, is it funding all phases? Is it just phasing construction or just environmental? So when I developed the draft, I failed to add that line. And so I had to make those adjustments. And other than that, exactly the same.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved Moved by Serrato, second by Samra. Please call for the roll.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Samra?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Yanes?
Yes.
Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Now is 7D, a request to review and accept the Measure B audit for fiscal year 22-23. Nav.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. It's that time of the year we talk about audits. This is the Measure B audits for fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2023. In front of you on the screen is our revenues and expenditures as it was audited. Measure B generated $26.8 million, expended $9.1 million. So the jurisdictions with the regional and the transit fund, along with the administrative fund, we only spent 34% of the total Measure B that was generated. Next page. This graph shows the expenditures by type of funding. So the 80%, the op modes, regional, it tells you by the percentages that each jurisdiction spend the funding. As you can tell, certain jurisdictions didn't spend any of the funds, some did. So this basically demonstrates the funding by category of what the percentages was expended. Next page. This page right here just talks about the east side projects for regional projects, what are completed, what are open, and what are the balances as of 6/30. Next. And then this one is basically on the west side, projects that are completed and that are open and currently underway. Next slide. And this is a graph that shows Measure V on the free fare. Oh, it's all good. Measure V on the free fares. As you can tell, we're doing very well. We're back to the pre-pandemic numbers on this Measure V side. We have about $164,000 of Measure V expended. As you can tell, one of the things that we incorporated from the last 2 years is the paratransit trips. That's continued to grow as more people find out about Measure V and paratransit services. They'll utilize that service more. One thing that did come out of the Measure V audits were findings. There were 3 findings. One jurisdiction did not provide proper support and documents on expenditures. So basically, what was reported to the COC on the expenditure report didn't tout to the general ledger. The second finding was what was classified as expenditure for a local was supposed to be for another project. So it was misclassified in their accounting system. And then the last one is agencies were late on submitting their quarterly reports. One jurisdiction didn't submit their regional project quarterly reports. One thing I do want to note, when we had our COC meeting 2 weeks ago, there, Michael, was it?
Yeah,
2 weeks ago. Stacy also did send out a letter from the chair from the COC. They were kind of, how do I say this? They were frustrated with these findings along with various vacancies on the COC. One of the things that's outlined in our funding agreement with the jurisdiction is if they don't comply with the expenditure reports, we may. So may is very, if legal will say this, may is a very word is and Director Serrato, may could be interpreted very different ways. It doesn't really have teeth to it, but they want us to kind of start, enforcing withholding funds for jurisdictions that don't comply with the expenditure reporting or, expenditure guidelines. So
I just want to clarify, and if you didn't say this part, is that in the project funding agreements that the template was approved by this board and that have been executed with every jurisdiction for their local funds and again for any regional project, that provision is there that they have to comply with reporting requirements, et cetera, and the teeth in the agreement is the expectation of or the ability to withhold funds. So I didn't want, that wasn't a recommendation out of the blue. It's actually has always been in the agreement but has never been enforced.
And it's up to this body if you want us to start enforcing it. So that concludes this report. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Nav. I think you answered my questions in your presentation. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anybody online? Any questions from the public? Okay, is there a motion? Okay, we have a motion by Samra, second by Serrato. Please call the roll.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Yes.
Director McDaniel? Director Samra?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Yes.
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Yanes?
Yes.
Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Item 7E is a request to approve 2024 appointments to committees, councils, and commissions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Marissa, for getting the slide up. So this is our annual process of filling vacancies and making appointments or reappointments as needed to the variety of boards and commissions and councils that MCAG directors serve. These are the four that we visit every year. The four on the screen: the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council, CalVans, CalCog, and the San Joaquin JPA. I also included in the staff report that there are two other bodies that this board is in some way either involved in nominating or as the business is involving, but we don't make the actual direct, this board doesn't make the actual nominations, but I included it just to kind of keep it all comprehensive. That's the California Partnership for the San Joaquin Valley and the REAP, what is it, the REAP Committee? REAP. Yes, you are on the, yes. The REAP committee is, it's a supervisor and one of the three have to be on the board, on this board, but there's a supervisor and then there is a large city and a small city, and it's Director Serrato and Hoag and Pereira. But those are made by the City Select Committee for the city folks, and then the county nominated their member. I think that's how it went. So anyway, so for this, the good news is that as far as I know, and it is completely within your right to do so, unless there's a director who is currently serving in one of these positions that is interested in no longer serving in their position, we actually don't have any vacancies, which is the first since I started doing this probably 7 or 8 years ago. So that's good news. No pressure for those of you who are serving. But this is the time to ask the question of the incumbents: are you interested in continuing to serve again in these capacities? It's also opportunities for, if there are board member people, directors who serve in certain positions and are interested in having their alternate, or maybe switching positions, this is the time to do it. So I would ask for that discussion to occur. But at the end of the day, if no changes are made, it could be a motion to adopt this slate again, or make any modifications that are needed through discussion. And I'm happy to talk about any one of 4 of these, but since we're not nominating for vacancies, I'll answer questions.
Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Yanes has a question.
Oh, I don't have a question. Stacy offered it up, so I'm just going to go for it. I would love to give up my seat on CalVans if anybody is interested, if that's a thing. If not, I'm willing to go forward with it.
Who's the newest?
And don't everybody jump at once.
Okay. I would say that for CalVans in particular, they have, with the way that teleconference meetings occur, and so some of these, for example, the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council, they do teleconference meetings, but you still have to come to the MCAG office. You have to go to one of the COG offices in the Valley, and you can participate remotely that way. CalVans has been a little bit more flexible, and if, for example, with Director Yanez, like he can participate from the Los Banos City Hall, so as long as the City Hall is able to provide public space for anyone who could want to attend the meeting from the public. But that means that they just agendize that location to try to encourage participation. So just know that that's an option, that if, as long as it is agendized, as like, we don't want to offer them 6 places in Merced. They'll always have MCAG as a location, but the board member who's the representative, if they have a publicly accessible public space, board chambers, for example, council chambers, something like that, it can just be a standing location on the CalVans agenda, and then you're able to participate from there. You just have to make sure that it's publicly accessible. Because, there's a lot of public that want to go to those meetings.
Yeah, I'm sure
I know.
Okay, no one wants to volunteer, I will do that.
And I don't think, I just want to ask council, are you comfortable with us working, if we have a willing director who's serving as a director, sometimes an alternate, he can be a standing board representative even if he is an alternate?
Yes,
Oh. You just made a lot of friends. Okay, so yes,
So he's going to take over as,
CalVans.
and keep Pat as.
No, but I just want to mention, even though I'm an alternate to MCAG, I just want to make.
Yes, you would be, so yes, you would remain an alternate, as I understand this, you will remain an alternate to MCAG, but you will be the primary representative on CalVans for MCAG.
Yeah, that was the clarification
Yep.
I was looking for, just to make sure the alternate can.
Yeah.
We may need to verify with CalVan's governing document,
Yeah,
but
they'll be,
okay.
it'll be fine.
Well, can we make it pending that you?
Yes.
Paul's he's waited on bated breath on this. So, yeah. Anybody else? Rodrigo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment regarding my position on the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. I'm the vice chair, and I'll be chairman hopefully for the next 2 years this year. It's been a policy that the chair has been appointed for 2 consecutive years in that board, so I'll be glad if I can stay on there, so thank you.
Great.
McDaniel?
Thank you, Chair. As well as on the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council, I have been nominated to be chairman of that policy council as well, so moving forward.
Starting tomorrow.
Starting. Oh, that's right, tomorrow, right?
Or is it next week?
Next week.
I'm so eager.
Okay. Any other comments? Any comments from the public? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the appointments? Okay. A motion by Nagy and a second by McDaniel. Please call for the roll.
Director Espinoza? Yes. Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Samra?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Yanez?
Yes.
Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Item 7F is a request to authorize the temporary use of Measure V transit funds to complete the purchase of 9 Yards buses. Stacy.
I'm going to tag team this with Nav. So I will kind of just kick off the framework, and then he's going to talk about what it is and why we need it. So this, I just want to underscore that this item sounds a bit unusual, but what it is we have yards will be in receipt of the several, I think there's nine, is there nine total? 9 new buses, and it was no small feat to even be able to get 9 new buses. We all got very, very creative. Our team here, our federal lobbying team, our entire Yards Board delegation, especially our 2 Yards Board members from MCAG with Directors McDaniel and Silvera, in pursuing the funding for these buses, because Yards is a lean, mean machine. We operate very efficiently with limited resources, and we were only able to get these buses because we were successful in securing an earmark through our former Congressman, Jim Costa, and then also a federal grant. So the way it works is that we have, you order a bus, it takes a while for them to be built, you pay for them upon receipt. But in both of these instances, those funds have to be, they're on a reimbursement basis. So we have 9 buses arriving between next month and May-ish. And as they come in, we need to be able to pay for them at $800,000 a piece, 850, somewhere around there, 800. And so we have a cash flow issue. We have the federal funding and the earmark secured, but we have to have the cash to receive the bus to then submit for reimbursement. So we went through, we also tried to get very creative. We've known that these buses were coming. We've known that we've had this funding, and we've known we've had a cash flow issue. And we've gotten very creative. Now I've talked to K&N, our financial advisors, and they made a few recommendations. One was try going to a bank and getting a loan, line of credit, and that was not successful, and they suggested a loan, but that would have required a multi-year payback plan, which would have ended up costing us money, and we don't need it for more than 3 months. Then they said maybe work with the county, and that for an investment there, and because of the way Yards was funded, that was not a successful venture. So then the third option was, well, technically, Yards is a transit operator in Merced County, and purchasing buses is an eligible use of Measure V, and there's money that's unobligated, meaning it doesn't disrupt the funding available for the free fare program. You could request utilizing those funds for the cash flow, submit for your reimbursement, and then pay back Measure V. The good news is on the earmark funding, once we submit that, we get it all. So we get that lump sum of 3.6 or what have you. The federal grant would be as we need it. So this is the request to the board, is a temporary use of up to 5.5 in Measure V transit funding, for the purposes of being able to pay for these buses as they come in. And I say that as they come in and up to 5.5, because if we get a bus and we're able to submit for the earmark, and we get the earmark, and then that cash is there, and we're able to get another bus and then submit, we may not need all 5.5, but we may need all 5.5, depending on if under some miracle under the sun, we get all buses delivered at the same time, which we haven't been so fortunate with Yards to have that experience very painfully. So I just want to underscore that it does seem a little unusual, but I want to underscore that the measure funds, Yards is an eligible recipient. This would be, it would be eligible to request the use of these funds, but to actually purchase buses. But all that we're asking for is to use them temporarily for cash flow purposes. And while I am the executor, the signing agent for both Yards and the measure, we would definitely have a funding agreement in place between MCAG and Yards for the terms and conditions of the 90 days and whatnot, and I'd have to talk to council about who would sign the other agreement, so I'm not signing an agreement with myself, but we would do that. So, Nab, do you want to talk a bit about the buses and how it works and anything else that I didn't say?
So the buses work on diesel engine. No, Stacy's correct. So I want to, just to put in perspective, Yards' total budget is $4.2 million, right? These buses are close to $8 million. $6.7 million. So it's almost 2 times of the budget, right? Even if we don't spend any of the revenue, we still won't have enough money. And as Stacy mentioned, for FTA, the earmark money, once FTA approves the funds and we receive the buses, we could draw down the funds right away. We're going back and forth on those technicalities with FTA right now. We should have our funding agreement with them hopefully by the middle of next month, and then with the FTA the non-earmark, the 5339, that's on you have to expend the money first, then you seek reimbursement, like any other thing, like CMAQ, and when you deal with Caltrans, it's the same way. And the turnaround time on that has been like 45 days. So once we submit an invoice, 45 days we get a check. So for us, and I'll go a little bit more in detail. We had 6 buses. We had to get very creative this time. We had to, basically tell our contractor, hey, hold up, we'll pay you in a couple weeks. Let us pay for these buses, and then the vice versa. Tell these buses, hey, we're gonna have to pay you later. Let us pay for these, pay for operations. So that's why we're looking at this funding. To Director Nagy's point on the LTF, those funds are accumulating as we speak, right? So we don't have that money access right now. By June of, LTF's 2 months in the rear, so it's by September we should have the $2 million, but what this 5.5 is access cash right now. So any questions?
Okay, I got a lot of questions. I worry that this sets a precedent that, I was on the formation committee for Measure V, and the promise to the people was this money would not be used anywhere that it wasn't already programmed to be used. And if we knew, whenever we knew we were getting these buses and had this cash flow problem, why didn't we put it into the Measure V implementation plan and have it programmed so that it's not a borrowing thing? That's my one question. I realize it is a transportation issue. It's still an expenditure for transportation, but YARTS isn't just Merced County. It's several counties.
Yes,
and if the board approves doing this, like you were saying, I would like to see an agreement, a formal loan of some sort, and even if you had the other counties co-sign on it, so that if by whatever, the government goes bankrupt or something and we don't get the money, that there's a payback of some sort.
So one of the things that I was telling Stacy earlier is how with cities, right? You have different entities within the city. We'll use the county as a primary example, right? You have Public Works, you have HSA, you have Health Department, all under the county, right? And then you have a pool of funds, right? Well, if we would have pulled all our cash, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But for transparency purposes, we would like to bring this to the board and just say, get the blessing of utilizing funds. We could have just pulled our cash and say, okay, MCAG has its funds, pull out regional waste funds, the TJPA funds, Measure V funds, pull the cash and pay for these buses without bringing it to this board. But for transparency reasons, and just want to make sure that we are good stewards of public funds, we wanted to bring this to the board and get the blessing of this board to utilize these funds to go ahead and cover the cash flow for yards, to get them and then return the funds back.
That's the perfect answer I wanted to hear.
And for to the point on the implementation plan, the transit account, quite frankly, has been one part of the implementation plan that has needed to be a little more robust. So as I updated it this year, this is the first time I've done the update on the implementation plan since when I wrote the first one, so it'd been a while. I tried to put a little more beef there, but quite frankly, we haven't programmed capital projects in advance. We've added them after because we don't always need, I think the only capital project that we've done with Measure, aside from the FAIR program, which is in there, is a local match that TJPA needed, and I think it was $500,000 that was requested. And then at the next implementation plan, we recorded it in there. So in that regard, should there be more forward-thinking framework around making these decisions for that programming document around transit? Yes, it's on our very small team's very long list, but we've tried to incrementally improve that. So it's not that it would be inconsistent. So I just want to make sure, but you're right, that's our goal, is to be looking ahead for the 2-year program and say we'd like to earmark X, Y, and Z and have that available. And then I think for the other point on the kind of, it's interesting to be in this position when I'm on both ends of the transaction. But in talking to the team, that's where I said we would still have to write an agreement with ourselves here. But I also want to underscore that YARTS is its own JPA. So I would need to take this to the YARTS board in February. If we get this approved for that reason, because even without getting the individual signatures from the counties, they are members of the JPA. So it'd be just like if we did an agreement MCAG, I wouldn't necessarily get all of your signatures, but by MCAG signing, we're all involved. YARTS would be the same way. So I would not be signing this agreement as a YARTS executive director without the board's consent, recognizing that if we didn't meet our obligation to MCAG, they all are on the hook. So, how would you, from Ms. Hayden, Ms. Hayden is, it took me a second, is legal counsel also for YARTS. So from a kind of a protection perspective of this investment, if YARTS board agrees to do it and this board agrees to do it, would a agreement between the agencies be sufficient to protect the funds should the federal investments fall through?
Well, typically a loan agreement and a promissory note would either be secured by some form of property, in this case likely the buses themselves, or would have some other recourse. So as long as it contains those type of terms, then I don't see an issue.
Okay.
So, when we did our, when we went to the bank, I'm very disappointed in Wells Fargo. We do separate our funds by each agency. We don't pool our funds. So RWA funds and transit funds are separate. We don't commingle any funds. MCAG funds are separate. So we went to Wells Fargo, and I'll throw Wells Fargo out there because I'm very disappointed in them. We've been doing business with them over 15 years, right? We have millions of dollars in their accounts. And all I asked was a line of credit, right? And they're like, okay, let us work with it. And then they came back with, well, we'll get you a vehicle loan. I go, I don't need a vehicle loan. I'll pay you the money back within 30 to 45 days. And they wanted us to get a vehicle loan because it's a 5-year loan, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not. So when we reached out, we talked to K&N, they're like, okay, approach the county. The county investment, they were very willing to give us the money. But then when we started hammering out the details, they're like, okay, as Ms. Hayden pointed out, the collateral, YARTS doesn't have a sales tax for them to secure. Right? I go, okay, you can have these buses if we default. And that's where that conversation fell. But the county was willing to work with us on that part. So then I was just like, went to Stacy's office. I was like, look, we can borrow the money from MCAG, or the money that's in there that's unencumbered, we can use that money as a cash flow. It's cash flow purposes. It's not for buying the bus. Well, it is for buying the bus.
Well, and this really is the last resort for us because, what you're seeing is the culmination of the better part of 5 years of our efforts to go from only owning half of our fleet and having no capital reserve to now owning our entire fleet. And we're like, the buses are literally ready to be delivered and we need funding for a couple of weeks. So we understand what we're asking and we understand that it's different. It's a unique request and it's significant. But I think we in good conscience and are trying to employ all the rules of transparency to help make this be a less worrisome action.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to draw out is it exactly how you answered that, to get it into the record, that's the reason we're doing this, is that we're not trying to hide it from the public.
Nope.
It's right out here for everybody to see, and we're on the up and up. So I thank you for that answer.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Director.
Good. McDaniel.
Yeah, from the information you just shared with us, being that the banking industry is very competitive.
It is.
I think we should actually consider another bank, because I'm sure there's a lot of banks out there that would be willing to.
That is one of my items to do, is actually go for RFP for banking services.
Very good. Thanks.
But we have.
We want people who's going to work with us.
I have a $6.7 million headache right now that we need to resolve. And Director Magano, you know the struggles of yards. So this is monumental for us to have our own fleet. Last year, I know I'm going a little bit more information, but last year we spent almost close to $200,000 on renting buses because we didn't have enough buses, right? So this is one way of, we'll save about $200,000 because we have our own fleet now. And Director Nagy, since you are a Merced County resident, we could get you tickets to the yards, on the Yards Express. Not Director Serrato, though.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And to second Darren's motion, apply for line of credits and enough for the future.
And I talked to various banks, so like just do an RFP. And like one of my buddies was in the banking industry. He's like, I don't understand what all that, like we have Measure V funds in there. We have RWA funds. Right, transparency is about $5 million. Transit is about $5 million. Measure V has $9 million, right? Right there, we have enough money to pay for these buses, but we want, like I said, standalone. Like yards, you need to figure it out. So we put on our yards ad, we're trying to figure out how we're gonna get the money. We could just, trade money we want, but transparency reasons, we put it out there. This is how we're gonna pay for these buses.
That's not how we want to. We don't want our books to look messy, and we don't want to draw any concern. So this is an interesting place when we literally have to take one hat off from one end of the conversation and put it on for the other end of the conversation. It's like sometimes it's like instead of good cop, bad cop, I'm Yarts and he's MCAG, and we just argue with each other.
Yeah.
Mr. McDaniel.
So being chairman of Golden State Finance Authority, we actually do this to help counties and transportations who need a short-term loan for fulfillment at a 0% interest rate.
We should just came to you.
We did look at that one year. And you're also chair of
Yards.
He's also the Yards chair.
For transparency.
Yes.
Okay.
One more question.
Yeah.
Did you say diesel?
Huh?
Did you say they were diesel buses?
Diesel buses. 100% clean diesel buses.
Okay, just checking. Clean, huh?
Clean diesel.
They're not as clean as electric.
Clean diesel.
Yeah. There isn't a manufacturer that produces electric coach.
They do.
The coach buses that can perform on the.
Yeah,
They make electric. They don't make hydrogen. Electric can't perform with the geography.
If they start at the top of the mountain, we can get them down.
It's getting them there.
Can't get them up there.
And the park can't support our charging of
Energy demands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why we're looking at hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody from the public? Okay, is there a motion? We have a motion from Espinoza. In a second.
Okay, I'll second.
Second from Samra. Please call for the vote.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Yes.
Director McDaniel? Director Samra?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Yanes?
Yes.
Chair Pedroza?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
One abstention.
Oh yeah, one abstention.
There was one abstention. Yeah. Okay. Item 8 is MCAG discussion items, but we have none, so we will move on to item 9, which is action items, and we have one which will be presented by staff, and public comment will be available during the consideration of the item. 9A is a request to authorize staff to pursue properties for the new TJPA facilities on the east and west sides of the county. Nev.
So Stacy and I kind of switched roles on this one. So last month, or in December, and actually in November, we bought an item, that SB 125, to search property on the west side of Merced County for a TJPA O&M facility. So this item is basically to bring a property acquisition consultant on board to help us identify the property, help us negotiate and get us through certain various FTA requirements, like if it's CEQA or NEPA. And then it's also looking at future potential property for TJP on the east side. As we know that when we do transition to zero emission, we will be losing parking in our facility. So, for example, we ran out of time, but I was going to show you example of how our infrastructure is going to look like with the hydrogen station. If we do put a hydrogen station at our facility, we'll be losing anywhere between 8 to 10 parking spots. And then with electric infrastructure, you'll be losing another 5 to 8 parking spots. So, as we know, these vehicles will need to be stationed elsewhere, and there's property around our current facility that we can start looking into and acquiring when the time comes to, basically overflow our vehicles to another property to park our vehicles instead of parking it elsewhere in the county. So that's this item to go ahead and release an RFP for a property acquisition firm to help us identify property on the east and west side. On the west side is preferably between Dos Palos and Los Panos along the 152 corridor. So, Stacy, I know you have something.
Yep, I just want to add that this is typically not an action item we would bring to get basically a thumbs up to go out to bid. The board has approved through the SB 125 plan the expansion to the west side and building an O&M. We've talked in different ways about needing to secure additional property because we're, with our zero emission, quickly outgrowing our new facility. But the reason that we wanted to put this on is that these are substantial capital projects. So instead of going through the kind of what we have the ability to do without board authorization and then finding out that there isn't an interest in developing these capital projects, we thought we would just start this conversation with an acknowledgement from the board that yes, we are interested, we can begin to pursue these capital projects with bringing on a consultant to help us kind of get started.
Are there any questions from the board? Go ahead.
So have you already decided the property, or you're just looking at property for right now?
We have not decided. So we have done, I will say that between Nav and I and Stephanie a little bit, we've kind of just, on the west side in particular, and I've talked a little bit about to Dwayne about it. I mean, we've loosely looked at to get an idea of what are the things that we need for sure, but we haven't scratched beyond the surface level. That's what bringing someone on board is really going to be what, we would say we need so many acres, we need these types of hookups, we need X, Y, and Z access on the 152, we need right-hand turns instead of, those types of things, and then have this person really scour and find the appropriate parcels that would meet our needs, and then we would kind of winnow it down from there. So we would be having them look for any and everything. But we have identified that we would like to stay between the Y and the east side of Los Banos. I mean, into Los Banos, like maybe to 165-ish. But we haven't gotten farther than that. I would even say 33, 152. I'm done.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Okay. Is there a motion? Motion by Serrato, second by Samuel. Please call the roll.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Hogue?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Samra?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Yanes?
Yes.
Chair Pedroso?
Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, there are no TJPA discussion items. Now we will move on to the agenda for the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority. There are no action items. Item 12 is a RWA discussion items, and we have one. The item will be presented by staff in order to allow board members to ask questions or provide staff direction. James.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board, staff, public guests. Happy New Year. It's 2024. I've been here now 360 days. Next Tuesday will be my year anniversary. 2024 is going to be a very busy year for us, and I just wanted to have some actual feedback from the board as we kick off the year. First thing I want to do is introduce the newest member of our RWA staff. We have Christine Cedillo here with us today. She's our new procurement specialist. Today's day 9 for her. So she spent the last couple of weeks trying to get up to speed on what we do out at the RWA. And we have a number of RFPs and projects that will be going out to bid this year. So she'll be quite busy as we start moving along. Speaking of those projects, currently, last summer we authorized the contract for our phase 1 of our infrastructure improvements at the Highway 59 landfill. That's the construction of our new maintenance shop, our indoor recyclables facility, our new fuel storage and dispensing area, and our new household hazardous waste collection area. Spoke with the contractor this morning. The current schedule is still that we will have final design drawings from the building manufacturer by the end of this month, at which point we will submit building permit applications to the county. Hopefully we're still looking at a target date of maybe April 1st for those buildings to actually be delivered to the site. So our hope is that we will have building permits in place before the material shows up on site. We'll have foundations poured and we can start putting the buildings up. And by the end of the summer, we'll have 2 new buildings on site plus our fueling area. The other project we have ongoing right now is our leachate power out at Billy Wright. Historically, we have supplied power to that facility by the use of generators. We have put up some new poles and wire. Unfortunately, due to supply chain issues, we're still waiting for the power meter board and the pump that goes into the leachate tanks. So right now, looks like those materials will be ready late March, early April, and we'll get that project finished up. We also have a design currently underway for a evaporation pond for the leachate out at Billy Wright. As we expand, our current tanks will run out of capacity, so we are designing a pond. We're currently in discussion with the Regional Water Quality Control Board about getting that initial plan approved, and we will probably be looking at going out to bid for construction late in the summer or early this fall. Wanted to give you a quick update on winter weather. Obviously, we've got another storm system coming in this weekend. So far, hadn't been anything like last year. When I came on board last year, we'd already had about 12 inches of rain out at the site. All of our ponds were full. As of today, we only have a couple of inches of water in one of our stormwater ponds. The other 2 are still dry. So we've had a pretty good operating sequence so far. We haven't had any days where we've really had issues. We'll see how this weekend goes. I think Sunday and Monday are going to be pretty bad. So beginning of next week, we'll see how it goes. But we did have a pretty good pre-plan coming into this winter. The next item I wanted to talk about was the outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza. Last month we had some conversations with the county. There was a notification of an outbreak here in Merced County. There's been a number of ranches involved. So far, we have only received material from 2. Most of the facilities have been able to handle the material through composting on site. We did have one facility that started bringing material to us on January 2nd. As of through yesterday, we had received 62 loads from that facility, totaling a little over 1,400 tons of material. Not to get too detailed, but when they have these incidents, they have to depopulate the bird group, along with a lot of material out of the coops, has to be torn down and disposed of. So all that material is coming out. That's what we've seen yesterday, was a lot of the material off the ground from the coops. But that 1,400 plus tons turned into about $180,000 in revenue that we were not budgeting for. We have a second facility that began bringing us waste yesterday. It's a smaller facility. We anticipate only about 25 loads coming from that facility, so that should finish up next week. And Dr. Pereira, I know you just came back in. Did you receive any feedback on the report from Lake Yosemite on the birds? No, okay, yeah, we had a public report that there were some dead birds over at Lake Yosemite, and kind of between the county vet and us, we're just looking in. The question was, one of the things we have to be really careful of when this material is received at the facility is we cover it up immediately. We disinfect our equipment at the end of the night. The trucks that are bringing it in disinfect before they leave the site, and again when they get back to the ranch. So we've been very vigilant in our bird distraction efforts. We actually went back out this year and purchased a propane-powered cannon. It's basically a noise cannon, and we've been using that, and it's been quite effective between that and the use of our pyrotechnics, the bird screamers. We've been really kind of positively impressed that we're not seeing a lot of the gulls even circling the site. We've chased them off, and they're not coming back in right now. So that's been a good thing. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and I talked with the TRB about this last week, and that's SB 1383 implementation, our green waste, organics, and food waste process. Director Serrato and Director Smith sat in for you a couple of months ago. One of his questions was, when can I put my food waste in my trash can? And our answer was kind of, well, that's up to your hauler and your jurisdiction. I will give kudos to the city. I've heard quite a bit of radio advertising with a good message to the jurisdiction, the folks, about bagging their food waste, tying it in a plastic bag, putting it in the green can. Our contractor out on site is prepared to separate that material as it comes in off the trucks. Currently, they are loading it into another trailer and shipping it up to Elk Grove to be processed while they're waiting for their CEQA and permits and construction on site to be able to commingle that all into the composting stream at Highway 59. So that's kind of an ongoing. We'll be working with the other jurisdictions to get the message out based on the hauler. City of Livingston, they're just getting ready to sign a new contract with their hauler to change. So we'll be working with everybody as we go forward on that. The other item about SB 1383 is, as the contractor starts processing that food waste in that waste stream, their contract did have a price increase. We're negotiating with them as to what date that's going to go into effect and how it's going to affect, primarily that's going to affect the curbside collection trucks coming in that have that mixed waste. I'm pushing back a little bit so that our self-haul that's coming in is not paying that rate, because the self-haul brush and leaves don't have food waste in it. So we're working with them to balance those costs. The other thing I wanted to mention about tipping fees, next month we'll come back with an information item to talk about the tip fees for the jurisdictions that this board approved last fall. Those are scheduled to go into effect July 1st, and we will discuss those, make sure everybody has them in time for your budget preparation as we move through the budget season. The last item I wanted to talk about was kind of the information that we have historically provided you on a monthly basis. We've been reporting the tonnages that we dispose of at the site. And honestly, that's kind of a counterintuitive number, because if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we're supposed to be reducing the amount of waste that's being disposed of by diverting it. So we're kind of self-reporting a number that should be decreasing, and it's not really reflecting the level of effort that we're putting in out at the site. So, late last year, I gave you a presentation talking about some of those diverted materials like appliances and tires and green waste, and looking at the volume of that material, because that does affect our staffing. The more of that diverted material we have, the more effort, we still need staff to handle each of those waste streams separately from the garbage that we're burying. So, and again, a year ago was a much different situation. We had the Oak Fire. We had a lot of material coming into Highway 59 that was out of the ordinary. So when we compare numbers year to year, we saw a pretty big decrease at Highway 59 in December. But as I said, I want kind of some feedback from your group as to, what type of information do you want to hear on a regular basis that reflects the level of effort and efficiency that we're doing out at the landfills. And I'll circle back to that when I finish up. A couple of the things I have been looking at is, we're still watching the breakdown between the in-county waste and the imported waste and seeing how those percentages are floating back and forth. Again, going back to pricing, at the beginning of this fiscal year, we did increase the importation cost pretty much across the board by 10%. We plan on doing that again this coming year. I don't think we've gotten to a point yet where we're chasing anybody away, because when you look at what they're paying in the Bay Area, anywhere from $85 to $125 a ton, for them to bring it to us still at somewhere between 25 and 40, they're still going to come to us. But as we move through the next 3 or 4 years, we pay off the bond, we will look more aggressively at how we're going to change that number. The last item I wanted to throw out was just a little bit of discussion about our gross revenue as it measures towards our budget. For the month of December, our gross revenue was slightly over $2 million. For the 6 months to date in fiscal year 23-24, our gross revenue is approximately $13.5 million, which is 62% of our budgeted revenue. And recall, we came back to this board with an adjustment to our revenue. We added an additional $4 million, put us right around $20 million. So we're still running ahead of that number as we stand. So again, I think our team at both landfills is doing a great job as far as efficiency. We are still seeing some problems with supply chain and equipment repair. We've got a number of large pieces of equipment that we've had to replace engines. They're back in the shop for other issues. So, just a kind of a heads up that, I'll be coming to you in the months ahead, probably talking about equipment availability and whether or not we have the correct assets for backup equipment. And with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, we'll move on to the executive director's report. Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to start off by saying thank you to the board. There were a couple of big items on the agenda today, and I've been with the agency long enough to know that it's something to really be able to sit here and be really grateful for what to me feels like the respect and trust from the board for the staff and the recommendations and then the work we do. Always really good dialogue. I always appreciate the questions, because I feel like if you're not asking me the questions, then I feel like that discussion is where I get the confidence that, okay, you're comfortable with your decision. We're gonna implement it and move forward. Hasn't always been that way, and it was very marked for me in this moment to realize that it's a different day, and I just really appreciate the way that this board supports staff and keeps us on our toes. Okay, so one, congratulations. You all now have a 2023 implementation plan with new funding available. Kudos to Das Palace that, if you notice, their funding agreement was on the consent calendar, consent list today, which means that upon my signature or our signatures, they will have access to their bridge replacement funding, and we'll get to go out there and have another ribbon cutting when the Lorraine Street Bridge is finished. I know that several other several other jurisdictions who have funding programmed in this fiscal year for new projects have already let me know that they want to start working on their funding agreements. So I expect a couple more to be coming. But that, as we all know, is the culmination of a lot of work. And so it's kind of nice in these moments just to acknowledge that and take a breath. There are three things that I feel like I've been, spitting a bunch of email out to you that are date specific that I have sent over the last 2 weeks. Most importantly is the board retreat. We ended up with 4 options that once I narrowed down the conflicts we already knew, other conflicts that we had, and the only one that is even appearing to be possible is the last of the 4, which is April 26th through 27. I did speak with Director Silvera and Director Yanez. We can, if you know now, you can let me know. But that is the Friday, Saturday leading up to the fair starting in Los Banos the following Wednesday. So in speaking with Director Silvera, he did indicate he wouldn't be available for dinner, but he could come for the actual retreat on Saturday. And I do not have responses yet from Director Yanez or Hogue on those dates. Okay, well then I'm gonna put you as a yes. So you all heard it here. She said it doesn't matter, so I put her as a yes. And Director Pereira. So it's Friday, April 26th, Saturday, it'll be Friday night, April 26th, and then the most of the day on the 27th, mid-afternoon out at Santa Nella. So I'll follow up with you all after the meeting. So if that doesn't work, then we'll be back to the drawing board and we'd be really looking after the start of the new fiscal year. So that was one that we'd like to have locked in. We do have a tentative hold on the facilities out at Mission de Oro. Their facilities are available for us, so we're getting close. We'll just lock up a couple more things, and then hopefully I'll get it on your calendar as a lock, and we're good to go. The other item, I sent up 2 other items separately. One is the California Transportation Commission's meeting this month is being hosted by StanCog in Modesto, and they are having a reception honoring the commission Thursday, January 25th. Also in Modesto at 5:30 to 7:30. RSVPs are required to attend, and I have heard from Directors Espinoza, Serrato, Moran, and Nelson, and we have you RSVP'd. They do have limited space, so if you are interested in attending and you have not let me know, please do so I can get that booked. And then the other date sensitive or date item that I'd sent was the annual San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Conference. This is a little later, but we want to take advantage of early bird registration. The Valley Policy Conference will be Monday, April 29th through Wednesday, May 1st. So it'll be right after our retreat. It is being hosted this year by Tulare County Association of Government, so it'll happen in Visalia at the Convention Center. This is a really good opportunity to, a lot of other Valley electeds go, Valley staff, stakeholders, vendors. It's usually a pretty good time to get, to learn about what's going on in the Valley around housing and land use, transportation, rail, elected, our state and federal electeds. It's a good conference. MCAG will pay for your travel and your registration. So we'd really like to get you booked early if you know you can go, and I have heard from several of you. So just another opportunity. And Director McDaniel's been asked to sit on a panel, and I don't know that you responded to Ted's email. So you, Rudy, and Rob Poitras.
Of course.
Okay, so there we go. Now I can say that we have one of your own will be presenting at the conference. Okay, so just know if you haven't let me know and you do want to attend, please let me know. We can book you later, but I will say that the convention center block rooms will go fast. So if you haven't let me know, please do. And then I will say as a reminder that City County dinner's tonight. Putting a plug in for Las Banas. So right after this, we should all be heading over to Wool Growers. And then lastly, I'm really excited to announce that we have a new transit director joining the staff, joining our staff on the 29th. Nav, I'm looking at you. 27, 29? Okay. I got two. Somewhere around 29th of January. It's on a Monday, whatever that Monday is. You may know her. Her name is Serenity Anderson. She was our GM with TransDev. She attends our Yards Board meetings, our Yards workshops. She's been here several times. She's been an excellent GM with our operator, and she's really excited to be joining the team. So we're all, looking forward to it. So she'll be somewhat of a familiar. She won't be a familiar face. She won't be a new face. She'll be a familiar face in a new role. But we're really excited, as you know, we Nav and I in particular took the last year to really, Nav really got involved. I know Jose and the team, the transit team really had to step into new roles, but really wanted to have a really good understanding of what we needed and what that position needed to look like, and we made a few tweaks. So I think, I say I'm excited. I think Nav is ready to get back to being finance director and deputy. I think 3 titles was too many for him. But we look forward to welcoming Serenity, and she will be with us by the next board meeting. And with that, unless anyone has questions, that is my report.
What time is the Wool Growers show?
It is at, starts at 6. Social at 6, dinner at 6:30.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna take off. You got a basketball game for my son.
So we won't see you at Okay.
Okay. You said that was it?
That's it.
Okay. So we'll move on to the director's report. We'll start with Director Hogue.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I just want to thank this board for all the support that you have given Dos Palace, and we are really looking forward to some of the projects that we have coming up this year. So with that, Happy New Year, and I hope you guys all saw me on Channel 47 the other day. I was on the spot, didn't know it was live, so so just beware when they say, oh, come for an interview, make sure you know it's live. So anyway, but thank you very much. That's all I have.
Well, now I want to know the topic.
Of what?
The interview.
Oh, it was just, who knows what I said. I was so nervous.
Like Dos Palace stuff? Or, okay.
Was it highlighting the new TVs or anything like that in your chambers? Okay.
forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. I know it's been a while already, but it's the first time we've all gotten together. And Director Yanez, I will not be at the dinner tonight. I have a MAC meeting, so I don't want you to feel slighted. Wished I could be there. Great group. But anyways, and everybody else, have a great evening.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to comment on our director's comments on how she appreciates this board having the confidence in the direction they give us. Because when I was the chairman, when she was first an interim, I was telling her all the time, please make recommendations. Please have the confidence so we wouldn't all have to battle it out here on the dais. Yeah.
So you're the reason she talks so much.
Well, we used to do all the talking, and these meetings would go until they go much faster, and they'd go till 10 o'clock at night. So I just want to say I appreciate the confidence you have and with staff to make these recommendations for us. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Nelson.
No comments.
Pat?
Thank you. I know Director Yanez is already at Wool Growers, and he has his credit card already in the bar, so we'll see you there. That's all I have.
Mr. Storaro.
On that same topic, the chair and I were thinking about riding the bus to Los Banos tonight, the LB line. So if anybody would like to join us, welcome to. And I'll probably need to ride back to Merced. So if anybody can drive us home, send out a call. It's true. So begging for a ride back if anybody's available. That's all. And it looks like Paul does look like the storage room at Wool Growers. Paul, but
Samra? Okay. Director Yanez?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, so first things first, I'm just thankful my 9-year-old only appeared on camera one time, so I'll take that as a victory. And looking forward to tonight's city-county dinner. It is Wool Growers, so wear your stretchy pants or suspenders. We have a great internationally recognized speaker tonight, and then after dinner, we're going to offer tours to our new state-of-the-art police facility. So if you want to stick around for that, you're more than welcome. But yeah, I'll hopefully see most of you tonight.
Thank you. And I have nothing to report. So at this time, the next meeting will be held on February 15th at 3 p.m. And excuse me. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting at 4:42.